Still love that Lord of the Rings picture.
Dude, it's one of my favorites, honestly. I wish I could get just the whole thing, all the characters done.
Yeah, huge fan. Just awesome dude. Created his own world, languages. It's just so religion. Yeah, and he was a Joe Adams dude. Like by day, like all the work he was doing, and then writing those books, man, in the war and stuff. But who's your favorite character?
Aragorn.
Awesome.
Yours?
So yeah, my girlfriend gives me a hard time. I want to say Gandalf, but I'm not. But Sauron.
You like Sauron?
I like Sauron. I'm very pro Sauron, and she teases me, but I'm not rooting for Sauron. But I appreciate that he made like such a good bad guy.
Yeah.
So you go to Sauron's Wikipedia page, and it's just, I don't know how deep he goes, Silmarillion, like if you go super nerd.
Yeah, you go to like more, Morgoth and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And you learn about like Morgoth, right-hand man, but just all the superpowers he's got and all the things he's done, I'm just like, whoa, it blows my mind at how good of a bad guy he is, but I'm always pro-wizard. So good guys, Gandalf, bad guy favorite would be Sauron. Later in life, after I use Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, hell, even Harry Potter books, like diving into them, like it's kind of how I see stuff, like had my dark side years, you know?
Yeah.
Forces of evil, not contributing or doing a whole lot of good.
I know. I used to be an orc.
Yeah. So my Sauron years orc, I like it.
Yeah.
I was a goblin.
But
and
even
then
worse.
going to the light side, and doing good things.
Yeah.
And using the powers for good instead of the dark side. So actually, in my journey, man, like I've read and dove into a lot of the fantasy and sci-fi stuff, and use like the light versus dark stuff.
Hell yeah.
Good quotes.
It's what's interesting is Tolkien's so important to me because everything within those books is applicable to life.
Yeah, great quotes.
Friendship, loyalty, taking the journey for the greater good, persistence, just have endurance, you know, and just all these things that I find applicable to like my pursuit.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of fantasy type stories had that same theme.
Yeah.
So that's what I read to like inspire me, rather than a lot of like different ones.
Same thing, man. I joke I'm on a middle school reading level because Rick Riordan, Percy Jackson books and mythology stuff, big into those. They got some cool stuff. But I love the fantasy stuff. Life, it's good to go off into the fantasy world sometimes.
It is.
Magic and anime and battles and all that kind of stuff, man. So
well, yeah, it is cool, man. I don't really get into much anime, but I do remember my like Dragon Ball Z days.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, I still want to be one of those characters, like jacked, flying around, shooting magic fireballs and shit.
Yeah, dude. Jiu-jitsu.
Who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah.
And like be able to fight like super speed.
Yeah. Well, what I love is like the only limits in anime, and I was never into it. My nerdy girlfriend got me into it. Now I got the ones I love.
Yeah.
But the only limits are the imagination. Like they can make any battle scenario. All you gotta do is draw it, and of course, think it up.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna do the intro real quick. Ready to roll?
Let's do it.
I didn't flip my hourglass. I'm going to anyways.
Cool.
Just because I like having it going.
It is cool. I like it.
I'll get consistent with it. I can see the time here anyways. What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. What this podcast does is bring in guests from all different backgrounds, from all different journeys to share their story, the ins and outs, the ups and downs, and everything in between along the way. And we keep it very conversational, so we go back and forth. We talk about a lot of different topics. This isn't an interview. This is just a conversation between myself and the guests, whoever they are, and just trying to understand them better, because a lot of times, most of the time they come in here, I don't know any of these things about them, so I'm pretty curious myself, and we're building that connection. So if this is for you, please check it out. If it's not for you, still check it out, subscribe, share it, all the beautiful things, and thank you for being here. Now, without further ado, for part 2, we have my friend Dr.Gerald Christian.
Thank you, Joe. Glad to be back.
Welcome. Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Just saw you a week ago.
Yeah. Super excited to be back, and props to you, man. Podcasting's exhausting. When I went from here to the office and just melted. Talking, people like, oh, you're talking for a living. That's great. Wish I could do that. It's tiring.
Yeah, it is.
It's very tiring.
And then I get to go to class after this.
Yeah. Oh.
2 classes.
Talk about relentless pursuits, man. I know you're married and got the kids, and then you got running the headquarters and merchandise and the training, and then this podcast and a full-time student. I gotta give you props because damn.
Yeah, keeping it together. I went to therapy yesterday. That helped.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, everybody should do it.
I go like twice a month. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's awesome. I do once a month. I think everybody should. Most people don't talk about that, but yeah, it's one of those things. And when you invited me, of course, we talked a lot when you were in my class, but when you invited me, I checked out some episodes. Hey, see what this is about. But one thing I loved is when I'm advertising this, I'm like, check out my former student and badass fat Joe, manliest man to ever man.
Thank you.
For real. But you got to post pictures of your truck as well, because I've had comments. I want to see this truck that eats other trucks. Which I think is hilarious.
Y'all want to see Gravedigger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get it out there.
But yeah, but the fact that you're talking about like depression, anxiety, crying, feelings, and addressing that, it just makes you manlier, dude. Like that's awesome. So it's cool you talk about mental health.
Yeah.
And having feelings as a man,
which is important. I think having those feelings are an important aspect of every human being, but not relying on them, and like I talked about it. I don't know if you heard the podcast where we talked about like people identifying with these things. So like, it's one thing to have some anxiety. Like I definitely do.
Yeah.
Cause I'm always thinking ahead and I'm always just like, but I don't identify. Like it doesn't define me.
Yeah.
I'm not anxiety. Like it's just something like I'm aware of, and I work through it, and and like I've been through depressing times, but I don't define myself as depressed.
Yeah.
Like everybody goes through situations, sometimes it's prolonged or whatever, but the thing is, if as soon as you rely on it or you identify with it, then it becomes such a significant part of who you are, rather than trying to understand it and work on it and make progress to becoming better and getting yourself out of that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And same thing like with me as a quad. Like, it's short for quadriplegic, of course, but I don't think of myself as a quadriplegic. I just think of me as, like me.
Yeah.
I even forget I'm disabled or in a wheelchair. This is life, and this
then you go outside.
Yeah, this is, I type with my nose. That's normal.
You're like, who the hell are these people walking around with 2 legs?
Yeah, what's up with this?
They got something, they're jacked up.
Yeah, they're the weirdos, really.
They don't got wheels?
Yeah, so I try to make it a stylish, cool thing, But no, like anxiety, depression, there's actually benefits to it. Like if you're getting anxious, that's your brain and body telling you, hey, there's something that you need to address, or something's going on around you. So, and I talked about it like gratitude and stuff last time. One thing I was wanting to definitely talk about was outlook, but like it's important to feel your feelings, so anxiety, depression, whatever it is, like, yeah, don't ignore the stuff. Go there, address it, but then overcome and get out of it. You know what I mean? And just to identify as just anxious or just depressed, like feel it and, find ways to overcome it and get out of it.
Well, you get the macho tough guys that are out there like, fuck feelings, and it's like, yeah, but you go home and you're like in a really dark place in here. I know, because I know people like that, and they express that. They express themselves that way in order to push some kind of aggressive message. But then when they're alone, they're like in turmoil within. You know what I'm saying? Like,
festering, man.
Yeah.
And that stuff, hey, they're doing it not great, because I'm with you. I totally, disagree on that type of thing to cover up and bury and let stuff fester. But it's going to come out. You know, if you don't address the stuff, you don't want to dismiss feelings and emotions. If you don't address it, you're going to blow up on yourself one day or blow up on somebody else. I mean, you know, who knows?
Happens.
Come out on spouses. You know, like you just can't let all the stuff build up, man. And everybody, we're all people, and it's okay to be depressed, okay to be anxious.
I mean, you hear
don't want to stay there, but you know.
Yeah, you hear stories like my sister, her family, like they lived in this neighborhood in Walter Hill, and there's a guy in the neighborhood like by them, that this was several years ago. I don't really know the whole story, but I'm pretty sure he just lost his shit. Like his wife maybe wanted a divorce or something. And he lost his shit and just killed everybody, like her parents and her.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I mean, obviously there's some pent up stuff going on to where you just get to a point to where you explode so bad, you just murder everybody. Like that happens.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lack of being able to like confront the things you've been through.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if you've heard me talk about psychedelics.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm a huge proponent of that, because it forces you to feel those things and confront them all, you know. But
yeah,
especially used as a tool. But
hey, I've seen more stuff with like mental health field using psychedelics for things like anxiety and depression. Man, I was always scared of them.
Most people are. They're like, oh, God.
Yeah. Really wanted to try them, but I've always been a researcher, you know, and looking into it, and I read something like, hey, you know, whatever emotions you have, you know, take that times 10,000. I was just knew I would be the worst tripper ever, man. Especially after my accident, you know, and all the crap I was going through and things I wasn't dealing with. And that's something I'll talk about today for sure. But, you know, just the whole Band-Aid on a bullet wound type thing you talk about. Like,
without a doubt.
That was, you know, me with drinking and drugs for a bit after my wreck. But, yeah, I was like, man, I'd have the worst trip ever. So,
hey, but it's like I say this all the time, that there's no such thing as a bad trip.
Yeah.
I think it's all just perspective. You just look at it as necessary, right? It's just like fate. Like, you know, fate, everything that happens is necessary. A lot of times you don't understand why, but that's the point. Fate's the unknown, you know? And so if you try to understand everything to such a degree, then you're going to end up driving yourself crazy. But if you kind of just allow life to play out how it should and just be like, hey, this is necessary and I'm going to use this, then you're going to turn out a lot better and find a lot more peace, you know? So, but it does make me, I want to get back into your story.
All right. Let's do it.
So I know you had mentioned you wanted to finish off with, you know, just a last little bit about football, because that was a pretty significant part of your life. And I know, you know, you were getting towards the end of that in the last episode we did. So,
yeah, just to wrap up, it was the hardest thing. Like, one of the hardest things was losing football, and just the worst of it, how bad it was. And I was lucky I had, you know, like I did, my coaches and stuff were good. Like, you know, they'd invite me out to flip the coin and stuff, you know, which I couldn't do. Psychology, you know, mental health wise, I definitely couldn't do it. But then also at the time, physically,
they're like, dude, just flip it. And you're like,
yeah, physically, I can't flip the coin. And, you know, you got to imagine at this point, like, you know, I'm sitting here like a badass, but back then, man, I had a seat belt, I had a chest belt, I had to wear a binder for blood pressure. That, like, dude, I was so weak and couldn't go out there. But, you know, I don't know if it still is, but back then they retired the jersey and the number, and for a week or two after, they didn't even practice with a tight end or a linebacker, you know, like my position. They just went without it. So they was, you know, that was cool. But I laid every Friday, you know, the games. I'd listen. I was at home laying in the bed, you know, hospital bed, listening to the game, thinking I would be playing in next Friday's game.
You're like, oh, I'm going to bounce back.
Oh, yeah. Miracle cure.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. I'm going to be there. And so just so much denial and stuff going on. But, yeah, and then as each game goes on, and then it's like, oh, shit, now there's only one more.
How
it's hard.
You know, it's crazy how, like, that much that applies to life in general. The whole waiting for something to happen, waiting for a miracle. If you think about it, like, you get a lot of people that will press pause in their life waiting for something.
And that's a big thing. And I've seen other people in my similar shoes. I've seen some people do that. And that's where I eventually got to a point where, like, you got to work with what you got and be thankful for what you got. But, like, hey, maybe in my lifetime they'll figure out spinal cord injury, and there will be some cure. But in the meantime, I'm not just sitting and waiting on that, which is a good thing because it's been 24 years in May.
Yeah.
So what do I got? I got biceps, shoulders, a brain. It went from football to like, hey, I'm not going to be building a house. So what can I do? I can think, I can listen, I can talk. Let's go get educated, and then working out the muscles I do have. But I've seen people just waiting on the cure or working out things that they don't got, and you literally can't work out. And
I see that the most in like, situations like that, or like politics and religion. Like people are like, vote on so-and-so, they're going to save us. And it's like, why are you waiting on somebody else to save you? Just like, you can create your own life. You can, create your own destiny. What's going to happen is going to happen. You don't have any control over that. Or religion, they're like, hey, just pray for it and it'll come. Yeah, I believe in like praying. Like when I'm at my altar and I'm praying to the gods, like I pray, but I also am like, it's not like looking for an answer or asking them to do something for me. It's like, show me the signs, show me the way. And I gotta pursue action towards that.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for it to come. I'm just like, nope, I'm moving forward. Just show me signs in order to kind of guide me. Right. And so that's, but a lot of people just sit and wait, and then their whole life goes by, and damn.
Yeah.
So much potential just lost.
Faith's important. Faith's powerful, but you got to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like you're the only ones, you got to do the work, yourself. Like I was saying, we can't, like there's so much in anything we do, there's people that's helped us even if we don't know it. But then you got to actually do, the biggest parts and put in those actions. And focus, I think I talked about it in the class, but like there's things inside our control and outside our control. And what can we control, and focusing on the things and what we can control. We can't control what other people think. We're not in charge of that stuff, but we can control what we do, what we say, how we live life and pursue goals. And that can affect what other people say and think and the world around us. But you got to do and focus on what you can.
And create, because a lot of people are very concerned with others' thoughts.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays more than ever. They'll dedicate their whole life trying to re-gear someone's thinking. And it's like, who cares? How does that necessarily affect you?
Yeah.
Like if you were like, Joe, I hate you right now, I'd be like, damn, this sucks, but I'd still go on about my life.
Yeah. What you gonna do? It's called the circle of control, and focusing on what you can. It bleeds out and can affect others' thoughts and things. But you can't get hung up in that stuff and social media and comments and stuff. Like, can't control somebody posting stupid stuff.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, you had a choice, right? You were like, okay, I can either sit and wait.
Yeah.
And then
or go.
That could never happen. So all I did was spend my whole life waiting for something that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Or I can pursue something else. Yeah, it's not football, but I can become educated. I can become a doctor one day. And that's pretty badass. You took a path that you didn't expect to, but that's where you were led to.
Yeah. And life, the number of people that end up in the place that they think they would or will, that first dream or whatever, is probably, it's very, very small. For example, like 4% of high school athletes play at the college level, 2% play at the pro level. And so, things often, life throws obstacles at you. And you got to adapt and overcome, and with adversity, how you respond to it. So, you gotta put in the work and adapt. And so, after my wreck, that was the hard thing to accept, was the football, and I was hung up on that for a long time. But, meeting the guy, Donnie, I think I mentioned him last time, who's like, hey, you can work, you can get married, you can have kids, you can go to college. And that kind of planted the seed of, hey, if somebody else did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And so I knew these things was possible. But moving on past that, the actual football stuff, like, you've been through it, Rex, and things. And so you've seen, like, you're talking about the one person that was paralyzed and injured worse than you,
Yeah.
And so things like that, it's so different. And then you go, like in my small town, I felt like the only, person with a disability.
Felt isolated.
Yeah, isolated. I mean, they didn't have a ton of sidewalks. It wasn't super accessible. So I knew I had to get out. I think it's Lord of the Nerds. Nope, Nerd of the Rings.
Nerd of the Rings?
This guy. No, it's a dude who breaks down everything from all of it. It's the most in-depth look Lord of the Rings I've ever seen, man. Man, it's like taking a class. It's good stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
creation, all of it.
I'll send a video to you too. And there's this guy. There's like this page called Sanatana Dharma. It talks about that spiritual aspect, and that's a big part of my path. But he talks about how the application of Lord of the Rings to the Vedas, the Vedic scripture. And it's actually like on point, man, how this guy breaks it down. I was like, holy shit. It's like an hour long, but he explains it so well.
Send it to me. I'll tell the Veda thing to Sandra. I guarantee you she'll know about it. I wouldn't know what Sanskrit was if it wasn't for her.
Oh, yeah.
Where were we?
So you said something about being isolated. You felt isolated in your town, like you were the only one going through this.
Yeah, definitely not a lot of other like role models there to look up to, like the guy I told you in the hospital. And so, like I knew I had to one, get to a place that was more accessible, more opportunities, more familiar with disability and stuff. And so, I got in my head that I would go to college. And the other thing is, I went to high school my senior year, and like I said, with chest belt, seat belt, I was so weak and could barely roll and stuff. But I'd get out of school, go to physical therapy every day, the whole year, like tons of PT. But, people saying I couldn't go to college and live in the dorms like everybody else, but I knew it could be done, so I wanted to do it. And that's another thing. Like may sound cheesy, but like fears. Being afraid and doing it anyways.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, hours away from home, like it would be really easy to stay with my parents, just stay home where I'm getting the care that I need and, I'm safe and got what I need and just coast by. And I like hanging out with my parents and always go home anytime I can. But, I was like, hey, I don't want this to stop life.
Yeah.
I want to live life to the fullest, like everyone else does. And so I was really determined to go to college, but, hours away from home, my parents took me.
Where'd you go to college?
MTSU.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And lived on campus the whole time. But, mom and daddy, drove me up, moved me in, and then left, what you do that, I think move-in day Saturday. And so, like, boom, you're in the dorms. You can't do everything for yourself, like lower body dressing, transferring, bathroom stuff, go number one, not number two. Like, I still had all these things I couldn't do myself at the time. And it's just like, boom, here I am. So, like, it paid off big time, though, and that's kind of what that guy in the hospital told me. He's like, and it's hard to not, if you got kids or whatever, it's hard to not help and do everything, but sometimes you need to like do it.
Yeah.
Yourself and struggle a bit. Struggle's important. Like dropping something, having to learn how to pick something up yourself instead of somebody just picking it up and handing it to you, but kind of putting yourself in the situation where, you're having to fight and work hard to learn how to live.
So going to college, you really had no choice.
Yeah, I had to do it. And it was scary. You know, I didn't even have, like, there was this agency that was supposedly going to send somebody, you know, the next morning. And so it's just like, you're in the bed, you're alone for 8 hours and you can't do anything or get up. So it was scary, but it did pay off a lot, like help me become more independent and tougher, you know.
I can imagine, man, that was pretty, man, talk about a wild change. And how long after your accident was this?
This would have been, I went to community college for a year, and I think I went down to Atlanta and Miami to do extra PT to get strong enough to go to college. So it was about a year and a half afterwards. Okay. Yeah.
That's still pretty soon.
Yeah, it was soon, man. The first couple of years is really hard. And like I told you last time, the 90 days I was in the hospital, I was so sick. I didn't get anything out of it. I was so weak from those ulcers and stuff. But, you know, there's those things, like, I think if you can do the math and it's physically possible, or somebody can say, like, hey, I've done it, it's possible. And you know what? You know, if you know it's possible, or somebody else hasn't done it, but you know that you can do it, you do it.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of set your mind to that. And with time, I met people that could do my caregiving stuff and help me with those things I was still, you know, dependent on and couldn't do. For example, like getting in and out of the shower or something, you know. But then there's all those other huge chunks of the day where you're just stuck on your own. You got to figure stuff out.
Oh, yeah. And I can imagine just like getting to class and everything. I mean,
yeah. So, oh man, there's so many stories, like falling out of my chair,
like in the middle of class,
on the sidewalk.
Oh.
So yeah, falling out of my chair, and you're just laying there, like, yelling for people and trying to get somebody to walk by and help you. And, you're new to it all, and just a little bit crack in the sidewalk can hit the front wheels, and then you just do a face plant, you know? So yeah, I always joke and say I was a lot tougher then, you know, like a lot of the stuff, man, I don't know how I dealt with it. Because you get older, you feel like you lose it, but you know, you're really still tough once you're a fighter, always a fighter, I say, you know.
Without a
doubt. And then, like, I met a lot of interesting people, and that's another good thing is, like, talked about, like, being grateful for what you have last time. You know, my roommate, Big Lee, love you, man.
Big Lee.
So quadriplegic, I'm, you know, like, hey, man, why am I not a para? You know, why don't I have hands and all this stuff? Meet Big Lee. He's driving his wheelchair with his face. You know, he's in an electric wheelchair driving with his face. He's wearing this contraption on his head to type papers with his hand. And even, you know, a speech impediment and a stutter. So communicating's even hard. Happiest guy I know, worked hard too. And he's off living on his own in the freaking same dorm. And so it's just like, you know, he was a big inspiration. And that's the other thing, like, he's just happy, you know, trying to live life.
That was a huge perspective thing for you, I'm sure. I mean, because, you know, it's all about perspective. That's how everything comes down to. And you talked about, you know, you could have stayed home and it'd been easy and, like, you know, parents taking care of you and all that. But, you know, and it would be so hard for you to go to college and do this, but you're like, well, if others can do it, I can, you know, and if Big Lee can be happy, then I can, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing.
Yeah. Huge influence. And it was funny how, like, we'd help each other out, you know, like I'd do the smooth talking to the ladies, you know, or handing stuff. And then he's got the power chair and he could move his foot. And so he'd put his foot in my back and push me up big heels and stuff with his motor. So
y'all teaming up.
You were teamed up, and, you know, you just learn to be creative and independent and stuff. But yeah, always being thankful for what you have. But positive mind and outlook, super important. And how you think of things, you know.
Oh yeah.
And not even going into the psychology part where, negative thinking makes it more likely that things will go bad or not work out, and positive thinking just being, scientifically more healthy and more productive, whether it's sports or any aspect of life. Like, I've always used outlook and positive thinking as a weapon.
Yeah.
And it is, super important. But, and in college, I'm also away from home like anybody else.
What's that saying? Your thoughts become things.
Yeah.
Thoughts become things. I mean, it's reality. It's like manifesting, right? You know, obviously manifestation takes action, but if you're like working towards a goal and you're constantly thinking negative, you're going to hit more speed bumps along the way.
Yeah, so there's a thing called self-fulfilling prophecy, and for the best story is for millennia and all of time, like, humans thought it was just impossible for a human to run a mile in under 4 minutes. Like, I mean, it literally was like legs, arms, it won't work. It can't scientifically happen. And there was this dude, I think it was Roger Bannister. He's like a medical scientist type, nerd, smart guy. He's like, I'm going to run a mile in under 4 minutes. 1954, said he was going to do it. He done it. He run the first mile in like 3:59. And then it's funny, no one had ever done it before for the, history of people running, but like within the next year, there was 2 or 3 other people that ran under 4 minutes.
Nice.
He done it. It is physically possible. So, and there's study after study, hey, shoot 10 free throws while you're thinking you're going to miss it. I'm going to screw up. And then do it while you're thinking, I got this, I can do it. And the percentage is always higher. So, I mean, it's like proven that thinking positive leads to good things. And so,
but you got to go for it too.
You got to go for it. And so I always am going to think the positive, and I definitely encourage others. The things we're telling ourselves in our heads is super powerful.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And it's powerful to the point where even if, let's say I'm scared to do something, even if I don't believe it, I'll tell myself positive things and that I can do it because I know science-wise how healthy it is. And you do get a point where you start believing it and keep thinking it, but really make sure in your head you're saying the positive things and believing in yourself, because the negative doesn't lead to good. But, the college years definitely, I handled, and something I was going to say, I, adapted. And you know my story, man. I've overcome a lot of crap, and there's people that are home.
I'd say,
they're home in the bed, or not working, or not going off to college, because of a disability or circumstances.
But there's people that are fully capable of doing so that aren't.
That also aren't doing stuff. Yeah. So, and people are looking at me like, hey, who's this talented, sexy guy over here? And this inspiration and male model. No, I'm kidding. But
hey,
yeah. Who's this?
Throw you on the RP calendar.
Quad. He should be a quad underwear model, but no. But people do like, hey, inspiration. This guy, just awesome. He's living with disability and living life to the fullest. But I was thinking after our last talk, before my wreck, I was out with my sister, and there was like a dude in a wheelchair at a restaurant, and I told my sister, like, if that ever happened to me, I'd kill myself.
That's wild.
So that is wild. But not dead yet. Haven't done that. Didn't kill myself.
Please don't.
My point is, like, we're stronger than we know we are. You know what I mean? Like, and some things you don't even know that you have the strength to do it till you just do it. We got to be put in the situation. But you got to be brave enough to know and think you can do it. And it starts with the positive thinking, and then what actions can I do to do it?
Yeah, truth is, it was always within you.
Yeah.
The
fire.
Maybe that time you thought that. Maybe you thought this accident made you that way, but like it always was within you that just unleashed it, right? I mean,
yeah.
And maybe, who knows, you might have never uncovered that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I probably would have I would have played college football somewhere, probably would have drank or partied myself out of college.
Yeah.
It definitely wouldn't be Dr. Christian. So, the first doctor in the family and stuff like that. So there's so many advantages that's come from it. You know what I mean? Like, things that I've learned through the experiences. And that's another thing with Outlook is life's going to throw obstacles and adversity at us, but like, what can you take from the experience?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I definitely have not always been perfect, like, one thing I've done afterwards on the outside, going to physical therapy, working out, doing the right things, but, just like laying in the hospital or laying in the bed, listening to football games, not accepting football's over and that, hey, you're quadriplegic for life.
I mean, but that's especially, at a young age when you get your whole life in front of you. Mm-hmm. I can imagine that's just such a crazy thing it's hard to let those thoughts go.
Yeah,
it's hard to accept it. I mean, but acceptance is the key, right? And so,
yeah, you can't fathom it and just imagine wheelchair for 24 years.
What was the moment you finally accepted? All right, this is my life and I'm moving forward.
All right. Yeah, that's a freaking great question. So Rick was May 2000 and went to college 0102, graduated 05. I'm going to say 2008.
2008.
2008.
8 years later, you finally accepted it, huh?
And I love that question because it's funny, man. Like my girlfriend, we've been together since 2008. That's funny. Damn. Yeah, so a long time. And people I work with, anybody that knows me but didn't know me before June 5th, 2007. Yeah, whole different guy. So, long story short, one big coping mechanism, that's another thing, like coping mechanisms is important. There's good ones and there's bad ones. And one way I coped with quad life was, alcohol and drugs and just numbing myself. Yeah. And so I say 2008 because, I got sober and clean June 5th, 2007. You can't deal with things. It's the Band-Aid on the bullet hole wound. Like, I didn't even know that I hadn't processed, accepted, and felt through the feelings,
Because you were going to school and you're doing all these things. You're like, I'm moving on with life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm doing good. Also, I'm paralyzed from the chest down, and if anybody's got an excuse to get high or drunk, and
it's gotta be me.
It's me.
Yeah.
They always say, every alcoholic or addict has an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a pretty good one.
I'd say so. Somewhat. Yeah.
Somewhat. And I remember, my senior year out of the hospital, I had a buddy come over and, just smoking a joint or something, hanging out. I'm trying to have a good time or whatever. And it's like, oh, man, if I was you, I'd stay wasted all the time.
Thanks, man. It means a lot.
And all my choices are definitely my own. And you got our own stuff. But, hey, all I need is, I just need someone else to say it. I'm thinking it. Thank you. Yeah. And so, but the reality of it is there's never an excuse, man. Mm-mm. None of them are legit. Even though I'm a quadriplegic isn't an excuse to just throw your life away. Yeah. And I talked about we only get one mind, one body. And the reason why I do speaking and try to help people is I'd like to help people avoid, to learn things. Not like me, always the hard way. I told you I'd do something, I do it right. I go all in.
Yeah. Same here.
But yeah, so if people can learn from the experiences, because, one way to look at it, this wreck dug a hole. It put me in a hole.
Without a doubt.
And life is in a hole. And I talked about kind of being in a prison and just watching life go by. But am I stuck in it?
Yeah.
If I work hard, I can get out of this hole and live life. And life throws those holes at us, and then, like assholes, we can put ourselves in holes,
We're just throwing dirt over ourselves.
That's what we're doing, man. That's what I've done with partying and drugs and stuff. And essentially for 7 years, I don't want to say I wasted my life, but, I finished my bachelor's degree during that time period. But I couldn't pass the GRE, Like, I learned something really important. Anybody's looking for tips and tricks on how to do well in the GRE to get accepted.
I actually am looking for tips for that.
Yeah, I got one. Don't do it high.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, be sober.
Wasn't planning on that, so I think I've got a good start.
But yeah, seriously, that was me, man. And I remember one of the times I went to take it, like I was hungover from the night before, and was taking the morning drugs, and so hungover, I started puking. But you don't want to lose the drugs, and so
need more.
Swallow the puke and to not waste the pills. God. Yeah. So that was me going to GRE
That's
one
rough.
day.
Did you brush your teeth at least?
Probably not. I doubt it. I wasn't.
That's pretty gnarly.
I wasn't a model. So we joke like our dorm and life was like Fear and Loathing mixed with like dirt. I don't know if you watched Motley Crue book.
Yeah, I have.
So yeah, we thought we was rock stars, man, and so it was pretty ugly. But yeah, shocker, I didn't pass the GRE that day. Damn.
Thought you would have had it.
Swallowing my own vomit so I don't lose whatever
God, that kills me.
pills in my mouth, and so, but then I get clean and sober, and guess what? I passed. Hey, I did well.
Yeah.
And got into grad school, but yeah, it took 2 or 3 times.
Was this in that time, that 2008 time frame, or like when things shifted?
Yeah, that's when everything shifted. But yeah, it was really bad. And I don't even know the point I was making, but I made a major life change. I'll say I've lived 3 lives. There's the one I talked a lot about last time before my wreck, and then I talked about that wreck on Saturday, and I really came to on a Wednesday, and it felt just like a whole different life. That time span.
Yeah, more sobriety,
It was so far away.
Yeah.
And then June 5th, 2007, post that, I didn't even really know who I was.
Yeah.
And I definitely hadn't processed stuff because I got hit when I got clear-headed. That's when I got hit with all these emotions and feelings and thinking about this stuff and started processing and accepting stuff, And so I'd say 2008.
It's when your whole life changed.
That's whenever I kind of accepted life. And then also, dude, thankfully I wasn't driving, but it was after all that, whenever I learned how to drive and started playing wheelchair sports and, just doing more things like healthy coping strategies.
Cutting out the drugs and alcohol was like such a game changer. It really is. And even, my wife and I, like Saturday we had some wine, at the house. That's it. We hadn't drank in like a month, and I love that. Like we don't even... Yeah. It's not even like, oh, I need a drink. We just decided, hey, I'll snag a bottle of wine on the way home, and we'll have a bottle of wine tonight, on the patio and listen to music and talk. But I think having that kind of control over it is good, and I don't see it as a negative in that aspect. But
you nerds with your moderation,
dude. Trust me, I can put down some red wine, but I've had my share, man. I don't know. I've been through that phase of life to where I've drank myself stupid and I've forgotten so many things because I've been in a state of mind that there's so many things that so many memories that I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Because I was just stupid out of my mind. I'm like, shit, I can't even recollect that because I spent so much of my 20s, even, late teens, just blitzed.
Yeah.
Whether it was early on was on pills, and then, a lot of my military career was just blackout drunk half the time.
Yeah.
So, but once you clear yourself of that, from all that, man, it can totally change your life.
Yeah, I tease the moderators. But yeah, no, I don't think there's anything wrong with moderation, and some people can drink, have drinks, but like, then there's some people that turn it into a contest.
Yeah.
And that's what I do.
I'm past that.
So I always just joke if, you're out to eat and like, hey, you want a drink? I'm like, I'm good. I've had enough for a lifetime. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to have 1 or 2 beers. I'm going to,
just keep drinking them. Next thing you know, that's what your whole check is.
Yeah, we're back at dirt year. We're back.
He's
I'm
back.
going
out.
I'm so drunk, and maybe I'm sleepy now. I go out and get drugs, and then I'm on the street.
You just pull out you just like have your rock band guitar with you, and you're just like, you want to go? You just fucking start shredding on people.
Have you seen, God, what is it? Like, Get Him to the Greek. Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Yes, I've seen those. Yeah.
I like God, what's his name? Russell Brand play Out of Snow.
Out of Snow, yeah.
They're like, forgetting Sarah Marshall, do you want a drink? He's like, no, if I have a drink, I'll be blowing whoever for a rock and all.
Yeah.
And so,
we don't want you going down that road.
Yeah, no, don't want to go down that road.
That's a sketchy road to be down.
If you can moderate, go for it.
Yeah, no, we don't need any of that happening. But yeah, I think that's an important thing to, reflect on, is that time of your life and that shift.
Yeah.
And I am curious too, like moving forward from then. Obviously, you got into grad school, you met your woman, and here you are today. Yeah. Because I want to get to where you're at today. So that's from 2008, which is crazy because I graduated high school in 2008. Yeah.
You're getting into it, and I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, I know. I was going downhill, and you were coming up. So we kind of like swap places there for a little bit. But so you're on the incline upwards. So how's that whole part of your journey?
Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Like just a totally different thing. And, overcoming addiction and stuff is super hard.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hopeless, and one thing, and I remember one thing, like and that's what I tell people, like it may feel hopeless and seem like something you can overcome. I definitely want to break down the drug talk stuff. But, like I remember at the end when it got so bad that I'm about to go into a nursing home at the age of 24.
Oof.
Because I'm such a terror, and you're looking at me like, you were that bad? Holy shit. I remember like just telling my dad more excuses like, hey, and by the way, my parents are so awesome. Really blessed when it comes to parents and family and loved ones. But, I was telling my dad, like, I just don't feel good. I don't feel normal. I want to feel good. That's why I'm doing these.
What was his response to that?
Things. My dad said, I'll never forget this. And he said, you can't feel good all the time. And it was just like, man, so that really affected me. I'm like, oh, wait, It's okay to feel like shit?
Yeah.
Like part of life is getting sad or getting mad and then working through it, not just euphoria all the time.
Yeah, that's man, what an awesome response.
It was really, man, we sat on the front porch.
To hear, yeah.
Yeah, front porch, kid to dad talk, and man, I've used that ever since. And so I remember the early stages of getting clean and getting off the hard stuff, and all stuff. I haven't done any since June 5th, 07. There's a lot of emotional feelings and things going on and trauma you're just now processing from 2000 or whatever. And I remember being like, I feel weird, but I like it.
Yeah. My God, feelings.
Yeah, feelings.
It reminds me, before I end this segment, it reminds me of something my dad said about 2.5 years ago when I moved to Murfreesboro and I had lost my house and everything, I kind of just went down it was in a really hard place.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just so like, da-da-da. And my dad's like, he's like, Joe, like, this is the time to live Relentless Pursuit. Like, think about the name. Like, this is the time to be on that Relentless Pursuit. And I was like, damn, you know what? My dad's right. Like, this is the title of my business. This is what I represent. This is what I put out into the world. Now I got to set the example and actually move forward with that mindset, so.
Preaching, what you do and doing what you preach. Bonsai.
Huh?
I said bonsai. I thought of Mr. Miyagi when you need to do this and.
Yes. I'll teach you some kung fu.
Yeah.
We're about to start chopping shit. That's the ending segment.
Yeah.
Just go to war.
Break some boards.
Break some boards. Well, we are in the final segment, Dr. G. How do you feel?
I feel good.
Feel good?
Feeling good, yeah.
Yeah, same here. Hell yeah, man. Well, you were saying, to finish off, you wanted to speak a little bit more on the addiction front and stuff along those lines. So what do you got for me?
Well, like one of the things, public speaking, something I love to do and a big thing I do, and talking to teens about drinking and driving, or, making good choices and the dangers of substance abuse. And so I guess, one point I'd like to make, I'm a big, I don't like the fear approach. You know what I mean? We've all had the fear approach.
So, give me an example.
So, like, do this and you'll die.
I mean, it's true. The fear approach. I mean, no,
don't get
you can die
than that. Or, for example, if I just went and I made this choice right after my wreck, like if I just went and said in front of people, like, hey, that's what happens. If you drink and drive, like, look at me, that fear. And so that is a message of what I talk about, but in a more like really talking through the things and not like a guilt or fear approach. For example, when I was a kid, there was DARE, and that's all things was a fear approach. I'm a big fan of the realities and just giving people the science, man, and advice. So, for example, because I think the fear can backfire, like for us, you do this drug once, you're dead. That's all I'm told. You do this other drug and you're blowing waiters in the parking lot. It
happens.
It was that extreme in both of those
Do you want to be blowing waiters for Coke? And
exactly.
Not to interrupt, but it reminds me of a perfect example. I got friends that ride motorcycles. Obviously, they all seen what I've been through, and I had a buddy call me. He was like, hey, Joe, you're having a daughter and stuff. He already has a daughter.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know, almost 10 years old or something. I don't know. Don't quote me. But anyways, he was like, what do you think about me riding? I said, buddy, you know what happened to me? Yeah. I said, you're your own man. I'm not going to tell you not to ride, if it's something that brings you joy, I say go for it. But think about it. I mean, you got a friend that you saw my experience, and like, I'm pretty fucking lucky, and the reality is that I shouldn't have been so lucky, like technically, right? Like I should have been dead given just one of my injuries. But that being said, like, my experience, and all you can do is take that. But like, I'm not saying that would happen to you. Exactly. I can only hope that you'll be fine. But this is the reality. And he was like, you know what? I think I made my decision. He didn't get a motorcycle. And I was like, there you go.
I love it, man. And that's what I mean. Because you could totally go the opposite route. Shame people for riding a motorcycle.
Do you want to like leave your daughter now?
Yeah, exactly. You want to orphan your kids.
Like what?
And I mean, that's one approach. Some people take that, but like you. And then when I was in the hospital, dude, I mean, you can make good choices. Dude rode a motorcycle from here to Daytona and back, and he gets back to his hometown in Nashville. Lady runs a red light. Dude's missing a leg for the rest of his life,
Dude, right before my accident, I drove out to Lynchburg, Virginia and back. 1,000 miles round trip. Perfectly fine, not a scare. I got caught in rain for hours in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
At one point, perfectly fine. And then I get, I'm leaving class one day.
Yeah.
Because you let me out early.
I know. It's still my fault. But I was thinking about it. So that means I get the credit for RP, because would RP be here, Relentless Pursuit Business, if I hadn't let class out and caused your accident?
Thank you. See?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr.
Just
G.
slide me a percentage, man.
Hey, I mean, I'll do what I can. Maybe one day.
But, so the reality approach, and what happens is when you're scared, like, do this, you'll die. Your whole life's over. And then for whatever reason, you get to that point, you do that drug, and you're not dead, and you're not going out. Sorry to talk about blowing waiters so much. You're not going out. And you're not stealing from your mama and pawning off her jewelry. You're not doing those things. You're like, holy shit, like, this was fun.
Yeah.
I'm not dead. I don't seem any different. I think I was bullshitted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to go on and do this more. This is just a fear thing, and I've been lied to, and they don't get it. And so I like talking about like because the horrible addictions things that comes with it, and, it can happen, but like, these specific substances and chemicals, what happens is, if you do it, are you going to die? No. Likely no. Some of them, depends on what it is. Yeah. But, it's called psychological. Some drugs are psychologically addicted. Some are physically addicted, and some are both, which sucks. And that's what you don't want. Like, I remember learning about dope sick when I was already dope sick. And you don't want your drug educations coming from drug dealers, ideally. And so that's what I mean by the reality approach. Like, hey, here's the science, and, if you do this, you get to a point where your brain relies on it, and you can't function without it. Or your body relies on it, and not having it's like having the flu. Oh, yeah. Do you want to have the flu all through life? Yeah. Do you want... And a big thing for me since June 5th, 2007, I like someone taking my word. Like, do you want everyone in your life, to not believe a single word you say?
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine trying to say things, ask for things, and no one believing anything you say? And what comes with the junkie lifestyle is you lose trust, and through good actions, that's how you get trust. And so, do you just want to be a social outcast and disowned?
That brings back, I talked about this early on, way earlier in the podcast, but had an old friend from a guy that was friends with in high school reach out to me randomly one night, hey dude, I'm here. I need to get to here. It's like in the nighttime, Yeah. Can you Venmo me $100? I need like gas money, or can you Venmo me some money? And I knew he was having some issues, and I was like, I said, hold on a second. I said, but he's like, I'm gonna go get sober and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, if he's reaching out to me, we haven't spoken in years, he's like almost a decade, and he's reaching out to me. He's like, see me on social media and stuff. He's like, it's a pretty desperate call because maybe somebody, I don't know the situation, but maybe he's already burned out his luck with others, right?
Yeah,
he's like, shit, I haven't asked Joe yet. Yeah. And, and at the end of the day, though, about 6 months later, he messaged me. He's like, dude, I got home. I've been sober ever since, changed my life, turned it around. Nice. And even, I don't think too long ago, it's been over a year now. He's been good. And I'm like, dude, and at the end of the day, like, it's all about your intention in that situation, right? Like, you're going to burn that trust, but, eventually people do want to get themselves out of that hole. Nobody wants to be stuck addicted. Everybody I've ever known that's been addicted, they want out, but they're stuck.
They don't know how.
I just believed he could because I've been there. I've been stuck in that position, and I got myself out. And I know you can, and it's not my duty to control whether or not what you do with that money. Yeah. I'm hoping you're going to get gas and go the right route, and he did. Thank God. But and that's what it comes down to, but it's just an interesting point you brought up.
Yeah, and it sucks because I've done a similar thing where a year later I was reaching out to hey, I got good, I'm clean, I'm sober, all this stuff, and I had people just didn't believe me, and relationships ended. They're like, you've said this so many times, so... there is that side of it, but nobody wants that. And so I think just educating people on what drugs actually are and what they do with your brain and your body, your mind, and socially is really important, because if we lay out the reality, who the hell's going to choose that? And I don't know if you're there yet. How old are you?
I'll be 34 Saturday.
I am 39. No, I'm 40, man. I'm going to go with 39 for a while.
It's close.
But I'll be 41 in June. My woman just turned 41 Friday, so I'm
Nice.
dating an older woman now.
Look at you.
Man. Yeah, cougar.
Yeah.
So yeah, laying out the reality of what all happens, because nobody's gonna choose, those outcomes if it's laid out there for them instead of the fear tactics. I don't even remember what I was going to say. I had an excellent point. Damn. Yeah.
Well, the fear, I will say, and maybe it'll come back to you, but you talked about the fear tactics. I'm the kind of person that always wants to challenge that.
Yeah.
If someone's like, this is going to happen, I'm like, test it, and I'm like, that's how I've been. And a lot of people are like that, like there's going to be a lot of people that are like, holy shit, that's scary. You've seen it in all different kinds of things, like politics and religion all across time. Like, oh, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. Yeah. You're going to burn in hell. And I'm like, and I think the fear thing tends to stray people away most of the time, but
it throws people off.
Yeah. But I think what I wanted to say, dude, is that I think we're blessed to have experienced the drug issue because we're able to educate people, not only because of like, anybody can sit there and talk about science of drugs and like, don't do this and that.
Yeah.
And people will listen. But then when you can like give the message and also be like, and I also went through that shit.
Yeah.
And then people see where you're at today from that time.
Yeah.
That you were in that hole.
Yeah.
That's what actually helps people big time. I think if you can speak from experience. So I tell people all the time, like, I'm glad I was hooked on drugs for a little bit. Yeah. I'm glad I got out, but it gave me the experience I need in order to like help people in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Personal experience. And that's why I feel like I have a mission to help people.
Yeah.
And especially if I can use my experiences to help you avoid, making mistakes. Because, like, I just got my doctorate at, like, I think I was 37, 36, I forget. But I could have got it 7 years before. Like, I lost this chunk of time. And so that sucks. But what I was going to say is I don't know if you're probably getting to that point where you're seeing your buddies drop off, like, whether, suicide, overdose,
So I've seen some of it.
You'll see, it's gonna sadly pick up a little bit. The ones that didn't get out of that hole with you, and they've been in it this whole time. Like, for example, the whole thing with like 27 and all these rock stars that's died at the same age.
Yeah.
It's all these conspiracies, which it is pretty freaking crazy. But what I found is if you just burn out, if you are a motley crew, you're dirt. You're living that every day. Like, your brain and body can only take so much, and so it starts falling apart.
Yeah.
As you day to day it goes on, and I think about the stuff I've done, and I get scared taking ibuprofen and Tylenol together. I'm like, oh God. And I used to like 5 drugs at once or something, not even worry about it. But yeah, it definitely, saves your life to get out of there. And no matter how dark it is, you can do it. You can get out of there. And, for me, it was just getting out of the social. That my phone rang off the hook. I didn't answer it. Yeah. And you got to cut off those people. I didn't answer it at all, and they just kept calling and calling. And guess what? I don't know, maybe a month, they never called again. They're like, hey, Gerald's out of the game,
Really?
And then you kind of got to prison and isolate yourself. And then music was a savior for me. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, like diving into fantasy land and finding something to help you get through those times. Music's always been the most powerful medicine for me. And it goes back to me going to college, and what definition of bravery is, like, not knowing you have the strength to do stuff until you do it, and being brave enough to do it, make that jump,
having that courage.
Big time to do it. And then once you're in it, it's going to suck. It's going to suck for a little bit, but it's going to be so worth it. And no matter the whole, like, I've known people like really bad off, man. Like one dude that, shot up like 90 balloons of heroin a day, like some crazy shit. No matter how deep off you are in it, you can get out of it. But there's steps you got to take and things you got to do, whether it's AA, NA, getting away from certain crowds, locking yourself away.
Dude, I did sign up for the military.
Yeah. That's another one. Go sign up for the military. But yeah, and you use that kind of as a tactic to straighten up, right?
That was me to that. I knew that was going to separate me from my old life completely.
Yeah,
because
you got to get away.
You have no choice. You sign your name on that line. It puts you in a totally different position in life. And I was like, dude, I'm going to need a hard shift. So I went and did that shit, and it definitely changed things. And because of that, by nature, I disconnected from my past a lot, and over time now I everybody in my life I resonate with. So I don't see a lot of the, people fall out as often because we're all on a similar path. I try to be intentional about, surrounding myself with people that are always working forward, but I'm always willing to help anybody too. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It's hard. It's hard because also, and you got to make sure others don't drag you down in that process. But I think it is important to give back and help. And I always kept, like I said, cut off everybody, but there was 2 or 3 people that I didn't. I was like, not going to hang out with them, but if they call, I'll talk to them with the intention of helping them.
Yes.
And 2 of them are alive, 1 of them isn't, and so... Yeah, I think we definitely want to use our experiences to help others pull through stuff because that's kind of what you need. And I got a friend, really good friend, that me getting out helped him get out. Yeah, it's like, hey, you're the only sober person I know.
Yeah, right.
And teach me the ways,
dude. And I had somebody that was I was close to for a long time, and I just kept trying to push myself away from them, and we were attached, and finally I just had to be like, dude, like I'm done, because it comes to a point you can only be there for somebody so much, but like you being in their life is also a risk to you at this point. You're trying to move forward, but like by being connected to them at all is going to end up screwing you up. And it's like, man, at the end of the day, I do have myself and I can depend on that. Yeah. I tried, but it's not in my hands anymore because you can't take responsibility for others too. And a lot of people get themselves in a position, they take responsibility for, you see it with family members. They're like, oh, well, my brother, he's been like this his whole life and he's just stealing stuff still and he's getting the drugs. And it's like, yeah, but you've been dealing with this your whole life. Eventually you got to cut the ties. And I know it's hard, but like, you got to think about your well-being as well.
You do. And, my mom she's got a million old sayings, and one is like, be careful who you hit your wagon to, and so it just, who you're hanging out with and who you're associating with. And, sometimes, shadier characters, it's people we want to help, but they got to want to help themselves.
Yeah.
We don't want to let others to take us back to a dark place or bring us down. But that's the big thing, man. Nobody is getting out of it unless they want to get out of it. And you got to mean it. Like a lot of times we're doing it to shut somebody up or no one's believing me anymore. So I'm going to say that I'm going to get clean, and I've done that. Like I'd go to AA or NA meetings just to show people I was trying to get clean. Really, I wasn't.
Yeah.
It was
you just wanted a pat on your back.
It was just a see parents, I'm doing this, but and it's funny. I am a big fan of AA and NA programs. I know a lot of people that saved their lives. But I went there a long time, drunk or high, but just to say that I'd done it so people would buy into the notion that I was clean and sober. But years later, whenever I did stop and I got out of the life, all the stuff that I heard, from all those meetings, I actually used that then to get and stay clean and sober. So it's interesting how stuff works out.
Yep.
Like it was helping. I'm there high, but it was getting through. And then I applied that stuff later.
That's badass, man. Yeah. But everybody's, at the end of the day, we're all on our way on our own way through it all.
Yeah.
You know, so all we can do is, I love coming back to this quote. I don't know if you've heard, be a lighthouse, not a tugboat.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, you know, and that's one thing, you know, you can be trudging through the water and have everybody be pulling everybody, but you're going to get to the desk. You're going to get there a lot slower. Or you can be the lighthouse and be that beacon for them and stay firm at where you're at and not allow them to drag you back. And they can come to you if they want to or not, you know, but they're steering their own ship at the end of the day.
And that goes back to like, we can't control other people. We can't control what other people think, but we can shine like lighthouses through what we do, what we think, what's our words, our actions, our deeds, and that can affect the others around us, you know?
Well, Dr. G, I think you've done a very positive job at that, man. And, you know, just I can imagine, like, you know, you speaking is probably a pretty powerful thing. I get to see it here soon, November.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm really stoked about it. So,
oh, yeah.
And, you know, I'll be up there with you.
Yeah, we need to find out who's opening, who's closing.
You know, I don't know. Like, what do I even say? How long am I speaking?
Joe's my former student. He should open for me. And then they're going to be like, Joe owns a business. You open for him. And so we'll have a big squabble.
Hey, you know, we'll just start like a big old debate.
Yeah.
We'll make it controversial, but it'll be an inside joke for us.
I'll do it.
We'll make them panic.
Yeah, I'll do it as long as Joe opens for me. And you say, I'll do it if Dr. G opens for me.
We need to send them this episode.
Yeah.
But, well, do you got anything else?
Well, so I'm a man of many pursuits, Joe, but you know, like with the relentless pursuit stuff, something I didn't like. For me, I'm always setting goals. I always want to set goals and improve, you know, and going back to my rec and getting into psychology and everything. My whole goal and purpose was to help people, you know. I'd always say if I can save one person from, you know, drinking and driving and it doesn't always end up this way. I got lucky.
Yeah.
And that's something I usually talk about. Like, I could have quadded somebody else. I could have killed somebody else. And to be honest, I feel like that would be worse if I did walk away with a cut on my head and somebody else is dead or quadded.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I can live with that, man. So, but yeah, I always want to any speaking opportunity I love, whether it's, you know, K through 12, you know, I've talked with preschoolers, you know, or adults and everything in between, you know, and kind of tailor the message and the speech to the audience I'm talking to. But I just want to help people, man, overcome stuff and learn how to make good choices and understand there's consequences to choices. So, hey, let's think things through. You know, before I do something, what's the good things that can happen? What's the bad things that can happen?
Yeah.
And really look at this and make a good decision based on that and understanding, like, hey, you know, some choices you might be in a wheelchair 24 years later.
Man,
you know?
And it's even choices you don't even think about.
Yeah, choices you don't think about at all. But yeah, so that's my relentless pursuit, man, is just to try to help people. But yeah, I do want to give a big shout out, very gracious, to Hunter Hancock, man, Big Lee. My parents are awesome. And my sister and all my friends and family. Somebody else forgetting me, Sandy. But yeah, Sandra, my woman. Going with that. She's not my girlfriend. She's my woman.
Yeah, that's what I say. My old lady.
Yeah, she's awesome, man. I wouldn't be here without her. I'd be like a turtle. I always joke that if I'm on my back, if I'm flat on my back, I can't get up like a turtle. It's like, so yeah, I literally wouldn't be here. I'd be flat on my back in the bed or something. So yes, love you.
Hell yeah. Hey, props to her, man. Shout out to her. Shout out to all those individuals for being with you on your journey and watching this change. It's been amazing getting to hear about it, man. And I just really do appreciate you coming in for the second time in a week, you know, taking the time and the effort to come out here and share your whole journey. And there's still so much more to it, man. So I'm really excited to see what lies ahead.
Yeah, heck yeah. And hey, man, I'm proud of you, man. Like when it comes to seeing your student, like own a business, and like everything I watched you go through with that wreck, and then fast forward 6 years, and what you're doing, dude, is so freaking awesome, and I'm super proud. And so I was gonna say, man, if you ever want to do a Joe episode, let me know, man. I'll come interview you. You tell your story.
There's I like to do that every once in a while because I get a lot of guests that come on that never even heard my story.
Yeah, so and then there's new things that you realize.
And you got people that maybe subscribe that aren't going backwards, just moving forward with the journey of the podcast. So it's good to give people a refresher about the host.
About Joe Adams, man, and what it's all about. But yeah, I'm super proud of you, man. Keep trying to change lives and save the world, dude.
Well, I appreciate it. Likewise, we're going to do this. Proud of you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Joe.
Thank you. Take care.